Hello everyone, Teeny here. I hope your day's going lovely. I'm so glad you're joining me for another 5 easy step card tutorial. Today we're breaking out some Hero Arts products. We're using the new layered hydrangea. I love hydrangeas. They don't love me because every time I buy a plant and try to plant it, it just doesn't do well. But anyway, we're going to make a paper one that's going to last forever. So this is beautiful. And you're going to love the way this card turns out. I kind of have an idea in my head. This will be my focal point. For my home panel, we're going to be using a fancy die from Hero Arts. This is the Looking Glass Fine Art Frame. And then for my greeting, we're going to be using a stamp and cut set from Hero Arts called Big Hugs. And for my background, we're going to add a little bit of scriptiness using a cling stamp that is called, I'm not sure, but I'll link it down below. It has some just scripty words in here that we'll put on our card. Oh, maybe, let's see, Script Bold Prints, that's the name of it. So just these things we're going to use. Let's jump in and get started and cut out some hydrangeas. I'm going to cut out my hydrangeas with white cardstock. Let me bring some in. And I'm not going to cut all of my flowers out, just the background. You're going to love this. This has cut lines on the edge, but the inside has debossed detail. So neat. So it's going to make a nice full hydrangea. This piece here is unique because it has all these flowers, and you would think if you cut this out, you'd have all these individual flowers, but it's one piece. It makes it so easy. So I'm going to cut this out. And then there's some layerables on top of that you can add. There's 3 sets, and then there's 3 individual flowers too. We're not going to use the 3 individuals or the smallest. We're just going to cut out some flowers. There's 5 on each one of these here. Okay, and then there's 2 leaves that are layering too, and we'll cut these out. And I'm not going to cut out the stem because we're going to create a full background. I'm actually going to die cut out 2 sets of these, so 2 and 2, although the leaves I'll do 5 leaves because I think odd numbers are great. And I will do that, and I will be right back. Now, I mentioned 2 sets. I colored in 1 set, and I layered it. I wanted to show you how pretty these are. Look how cool this is. Doesn't that look like a real hydrangea? Just so pretty. And then I created some leaves, and it looks like they're a little difficult, but it's so easy, just using some inks. Okay, and then I have a couple extra that I put small foam squares behind. I'm not going to add them to the bigger portion of the hydrangea because I'm going to use them as little accent pieces. Okay, now, well, let's make this beautiful flower. Okay, first we're going to put the leaves aside, and we're going to work on these. Okay, I'm bringing in some inks, and I thought these colors would go beautiful on my card today. Usually I gravitate towards pinks, but bringing in some blues is perfect for my card today. I'm using Pink Fresh Studio inks, but any inks that you have would work. Even oxide inks would work too. I'm using Storm, Sky Blue, and Hydrangea, and basically a purple and a light blue and a dark blue. Okay, I'm going to start with my light blue. Let me bring in my mat here. It's just easier when I blend. Okay, using my blending brush, we're going to just add some blue around the edges here. Actually, we'll add light blue. You're going to just be amazed how easy this is. This is messy ink blending. So we'll just cover this with the light blue. Okay, and I'll do the same thing and this piece. And I need to punch this little piece out. There's a lot of little pieces that you punch out, but isn't that so cool? It's just one piece. We're going to add blue all over this one. I'm also going to add blue to just one side. I want a little bit of white on my flower, so I'm just going to add blue to one side of these individual flowers. Very easy to add. That's all we're doing with the light blue. And then we're going to bring in our purple ink, And all we're going to do is hit and miss these areas, because that's kind of the way hydrangeas are just hit and miss. Just like that. And I'll do the same thing here. Heavy maybe on one side, maybe go in a little triangle pattern. And that's all there is to that. And with my individual flowers, we're going to add some purple to these too. And again, with the individual flowers, I want a little bit of white still showing. And that's my purple. Okay, we're going to add a little bit more of a richness to our flower. And so this is where my dark blue comes in. And we're just going to add, not to these flowers, but to the base here. We're going to add some darker blue, just in a couple spots. And we'll do the same to this one. And that's all the ink blending that we're going to do for our flowers. It's pretty simple to do. It's messy inking, my favorite. Now we're going to go ahead and layer these together. Before I add this to this one, okay, I want some darker flower centers. And to do that, I'm bringing in a gray marker. This is C4. And over the flower centers, I'm just going to add some color. Now, there is a circle in the flower centers. Let me see if you can see it. You see the circle? Okay, I'm going to go overlapping the circle just a little bit. And this part doesn't have to be perfect either. Just add some gray. I'm going over the circles because when we add a flower center, and there are flower centers, but we're not going to add them. We're going to do something special. But just adding the gray, overlapping that circle is adding, it's going to highlight the flowers. So that is that part, and I'll do the same thing to the individual ones. So foam squares are behind here, and I'm going to layer it over the top. I'm actually going to flip it around. There's debossed area so you know where to put them, but I'm going to I want to shift it. I'm just going to add this right over to the top. Hydrangeas are nice because they don't have to be perfect. Okay, so now we have 2 layers. Okay, and then we can add our small individual flowers. For these, I'm going to bring in some micro squares, which are itty bitty. And then we're going to layer these right over the top. I'm going to save a couple. Now we have even more dimension. I did keep 3 of these flowers. We're going to put these to the side over here also. Okay, and our flower is done. Now we're going to color in our leaves. For my leaves, I have 3 green inks. Okay, I have light, medium, and dark. I have a citron, Spanish moss, and lush forest. Okay, those are the colors, what they look like. I'm going to start off with my lightest color. And just using my blending tool, we're going to add ink to the leaves. I'm also going to add it to the spine here, and I love that it's separate because this does add a lot of detail. We'll go light here. So far we just tinted our cardstock with the lightest green. Now I'm going to bring in my Spanish moss, which is my medium green. And let's add some darker highlights along one side. You see? Or this one, we're going to go along the top a little bit. And I'm also going to add a little bit of color. And then on the spine of my leaves, we're going to add some. Okay, now this is where we're going to bring in our darker ink. And this is where we're going to just add the darker ink to the edges. Look how pretty that is. So gorgeous. Maybe on here too. And that's all there is to our leaves. So light, medium, dark. Your darkest should be a different color of green. So two that are similar, one darker for contrast. Works out perfect. And your lightest color could actually be a yellow too. You didn't know that, but the lightest color could also be a yellow. Now I'm going to take my glue and we'll add our spine. Since this is delicate, I'm bringing in a finger dauber, and I put some glue on my craft surface, and I'm just going to daub some glue on this piece. Oops. And then we can layer this. It goes from the bottom. There's debossed area, so you know where to put it. And that is all there is to those. So pretty. Inky fingers and all. Okay? And I do want to mention, if you use a finger dauber, just use a little bit of water over the top. And then you can use a towel or bring it to the sink. Wipe it off so it doesn't dry out. And you can reuse this. You may, in the future, if you oversaturate it with your finger dauber, this top piece might pop off because you're rinsing it off. But I always put glue. I'll label this glue, and this way I know this is what the one that I use for my glue. A little tidbit. So I'll clean off my work surface, and we'll jump into step number 2, which is creating our home panel. I think this frame is so pretty. This is the Looking Glass Fine Art frame from Hero Arts. Isn't that so pretty? Has that detail, and it cuts out, well, a frame with this. So I'm going to cut this out, and I'm going to use some gold cardstock. This is Spellbinders Treasured Gold Assorted Pack, and I think for this I'm going to use my matte metallic color. Okay, I'm going to just trim out a piece here. Okay, I will run this through my die cut machine. Now I also have a piece of acetate that's going to fit perfectly behind my frame. Okay, I love adding little details like this. I use vellum a lot when I do this, but I thought a clear acetate, I could see the flowers behind my frame, and I think this is going to work out great. Now adding acetate is going to be fabulous because I can actually give my greeting dimension by adding it to this. And so we have a glass over our frame. I love adding small details like this because it just adds so much to your card. Not to mention, you can see that I'm going to have the flowers be shown behind my frame. I think that would be really pretty. Okay, so this is my home panel. And now we're going to move along to step number 3 and create our sentiment. We're using the Hero Arts Big Hugs stamp and cut set, and I'm going to cut out my big hugs. I'm not going to use a sub-sentiment or a secondary sentiment. I'm just going to use big hugs. I thought big hugs would go with the big, bold hydrangeas. So we're going to die cut this out a couple of times, 2 times, and then I'm also going to die cut it out with a piece of pop-up foam for a little added dimension, and I will be right back. Okay, I didn't know this, but the hugs cut out in 2 different sections, which is perfectly fine. I thought they were connected, but this works out great. I left my big hugs that we die cut out with the pop-up foam inside here. Okay, this way I'm going to flip it over, and we're going to sandwich some white cardstock between the pop-up foam. So this is on the back side. I'm just going to go ahead and add some glue. I like keeping it in the foam because it holds its shape. Again, we're sandwiching our greeting. There we go. Normally I just do the front side, but I thought we would do the front and back. Okay, so we have front and back, and now we can just pop them out. I love the way the greetings feel when you stack a couple sets of cardstock together, and I thought if we sandwiched it, it would have that nice sturdy feel, and it does. So sandwich 2 greetings between your foam, and it really does give it a nice little stability. Nice. Almost. So we have a lot of dimension now, and that is our greeting. I'm going to take my greeting, okay, and we're going to add this to our window. But that is my greeting on my home panel, and now we're going to move along to step number 4 and create our background. For my background, I'm bringing some off-white cardstock. This is Spellbinders Alabaster, and this is where our stamp set will come in. And I'm not going to do too much. I just wanted a little extra something in my background. And again, this is the script bold print. I'm going to remove that plastic sheet so it's a little more pliable, and then I'm going to bring in some gray ink. This is my Paintbrush Studio Misty Coast, and I just want to see if it will show up. Yeah, it'll show up fine. Okay, so and then I'm going to add some ink to my stamp here. Okay, and then I'm going to just tap a little bit over here, so it's kind of really subtle, but I know it's there. And then I can add some more ink here. Maybe add a little, press it here. I don't want to do the whole thing. I want to kind of hit and miss it. And maybe up here. And that's all there is to my background. Very, very subtle, and that's what I want. But something is there. Okay, and this is a great background stamp to do that. Okay, and then I'm going to take this background and put it on my A2 size card base. Okay, we'll just press this on here, and I didn't mention it, but the size of my panel of the alabaster, the panel measures 4 inches by 5 1/4. So I just took a 1/4 inch off the left and the bottom of an A2 panel. Now we're going to add our focal point, and we're going to chop these. We're going to add our hydrangeas to the top and bottom corner. Just going to add some glue, and maybe over here. And if there is some overhanging, you know what you can do? You can use those leftover pieces, and then we'll add maybe this one here. Okay, now if you wanted to, you could use these pieces and do fill-in. Look at, I'll show you. You can make it more filled in if you wanted to. How nice is that? Okay, but I just like the corners going on here. So we're going to toss those, okay? And we have our leaves now that we're going to do a little tucking with. So now we have some leaves. I have one of the larger leaves over here hanging over, and this is going to work out good because I'm going to take this extra leaf and we'll put a small foam square behind here, and then I can add a little bit more greenery along this edge, which works out great. After we have this done, we have our little extra flowers that I'm going to add as fill-ins, and I want to go over my frame. On this side, we'll overlap this one over here. Lovely. Okay, now we're going to move along to our final step, step number 5, which means it's time to embellish. And to embellish my card today, when there's a lot going on, just something simple as some drops will work perfect. And these, I have some Hero Pearls. This is the white. It's got a real pretty finish to it. And I'm going to add some flower centers to all of these little flowers. Just add little dots. I'm going to tap it a little bit. Look how pretty those pearls are over that gray marker that we added to each of the flower centers. Adds a lot of depth to our hydrangeas. But that's my card today. Thank you so much for joining me for another 5 Easy Step card tutorial. Have a wonderful rest of your day. I have lots more fun projects to share with you, so stay tuned for those. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye. Thanks so much for sticking with me to the end. I have 2 more videos that you guys might be interested here. If you guys are new and like the content that you see, click that subscribe button and also the notification bell. That way for future videos, be notified. Also, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. It sure does help the channel. Have a wonderful day. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.